Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my weekly Node-RED live stream. An hour and a bit of Node-RED core development, working on something interesting. Excuse me whilst I've turned that down a bit. Hope you're all well. Soft2k, Jim Bob Squelchy in the chat. Good to see you guys already. Do say hi in the chat if you're here. Do leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. It's going to be, like I said, an hour or so of something interesting. I do have a rough plan. So what's up? So we got the 2.1 beta out last Thursday. I hope some of you have given that a go so far. So we're in this, it's always a slightly weird period between doing the beta and final release or a beta refresh when notionally most of the work's done. Now it's just waiting for feedback and hopefully being able to respond promptly to feedback. So for 2.1 there's one outstanding pull request going through at the moment around dynamic MQTT nodes. But Steve's making some great progress. It's sort of, as a design, it's evolved quite a long way from where it started, but it's good. Otherwise, it's just looking at, are there any just small paper cut type stuff we can quickly fix that just, low risk, high reward in terms of user experience. So on that note, I've been I'm just being pinged. Let me turn off being pinged. So at the end of last week's stream, I did say, as I often do, if you've got any suggestions or feedback of what you'd like to see me cover, then by all means, give me a ping. And one of you did. Shrekus on Slack, Steve did ping to give me some suggestions around the debug node and the debug node sidebar. And funnily enough, chatting with Dave CJ earlier, he flagged up a couple of things on the debug sidebar, completely unrelated. But again, when I talk about paper cuts, it's looking for those little things we can do just to try and make life better when using the editor. So we're going to have a quick look at some of these debug sidebar improvements, see how easy they will be to do. I mentioned low risk, and that's kind of key thing. We kind of don't want to put something in now that breaks, but the plan is certainly to refresh the beta on Thursday. So we're going to have beta 2 come out on Thursday, and then aim to have the final 2.1 release next Thursday. That's the timeline. And a pattern I want to try and repeat with future milestone releases, have a sort of do a beta release on a Thursday and then try and do a refresh once a week for two or 3 weeks, depending on how much is in, before doing the final release on a Thursday. Just trying to be predictable, which is good because it also gives people who want to contribute a date to focus their minds in terms of when they get stuff in. So let's have a look. So Steve asks, a different Steve, are you taking suggestions for debug improvements during this session? Well, no doubt you will have a shopping list of things to suggest. I've got plenty to look at already. I'm sure if there's bits that crop up that are related to the things we're going to be looking at, then by all means, throw it in the chat. The worst that can happen is it goes on the backlog for another time. But so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit from first principles, a lot of the development process. I've covered this in previous videos, but I know not everyone watches everything. So it's useful just to recover it from the start. So maybe not the complete start, but what I'm going to show you is here I am in the Node-RED code repository in the root, and notice I'm in I'm in the dev branch. So if I list the branches, well, that's probably not a good thing to do on my local copy because I've got hundreds of branches. So dev branch is where we put all new code for new features, new development, and master is where the current stable release is. So I'm in the dev branch, and then I run grunt dev. So grunt is our task runner. Dev is a particular task we have, and what that does is it builds the code, and by build, the build is mostly doing the editor, so taking all the different bits of JavaScript and building it into one, and does a few other copying around tasks, and then it runs Node-RED. But the key thing grunt dev does is under the covers, it's using NodeMon, and it's watching the source tree for changes. So if I edit any runtime file, or if I edit any node JavaScript or HTML, as in Node-RED nodes, JavaScript or HTML, it will automatically restart Node-RED. And if I edit any of the editor source code, it will rebuild the editor. And we don't have to restart Node-RED if we've just rebuilt the editor. That's a file that gets reloaded by the browser every time. So yeah, so that's how we run things up. Steve, what's your suggestion in the chat there? So would like to see the data type of the property. If you could fit that in, that's great. That's all. The data type. Okay, I might need a bit more on that because we do kind of tell you what you've got, but maybe there's something else about it. So Noxboy, is no more behaving with your Mac M1? Yes. So it was, I forget whether it was a Mac OS kernel update or just a newer version of Node that fixed something. But yeah, it was a fix that acknowledged that they were fixing this particular seg fault, or it wasn't a seg fault, it was something else. But anyway, yes, it is behaving, and life is so much better when it behaves, because it was a pain when I was having to double check every time whether it was really running or not. Okay. So what are we going to do? Let's well, here we have the dynamic MQTT stuff, although I'm not in that branch, so it's all going to get confused. Let's create a new flow. Well, first I should talk a bit about what are the different things we want to do. So to do that, I just need to inject some data. I'm going to do a couple of different things. I just need a bunch of data. U, V, W, X, Y, Z. I think I've got all the letters there. And then I'm going to just split that. So I've got an array with all the letters in, and then we'll pass that to debug. Oh, okay, right. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm just going to delete that node. I can recreate it when I go back to testing the branch. Oh, now this has caught me a few times, and I don't want to sidetrack myself. The fact you can now hide tabs means you've got to be a bit more careful when you click around up here, because it's a little too easy to accidentally close a tab. So anyway, not going to worry about that now. So here we've got a flow injecting an array, and when I expand it, in order to sort of protect ourselves from flooding the sidebar, it's an array of 26 things, and we display them in batches of 10. just to help make it manageable. And that's all good. If I, as you know, when you hover over an element, you get these copy path and copy value options. So you get it on the array, and copying that will copy the entire array, and you get it on individual properties. So the suggestion from Steve is you don't get those tools on these 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 25 slices. And his suggestion was it would be useful to be able to just copy out one of these slices. For example, if you just wanted to grab some example data. So you want an array of some data, but you don't want all 100 entries, you just want a slice of them. It would be nice to be able to just hover and say copy entries 10 to 19 and put it into an array. So that's one piece. So we can certainly have a look at that. I will say now it's possibly slightly easier said than done given the slightly hacky way these copy tools work, but we can dig into that. Another suggestion was if I'm going to stick back on flow 9. Just something different. So I inject one of those. Okay, so now I've got two messages in. No, I'm going to clear the topic not defined because that's just going to. Let's inject two messages from two different flows, and we can change this filter to say current flow, at which point we only see the debug for the current flow. So the second suggestion was if you've got a filter, whether this clear log button, should it clear the absolutely everything, or should it just clear the current filtered ones? So at the moment, if I click clear log and then go all nodes, there's nothing because I've cleared out the log in its entirety. So the suggestion is being able to, let's just get some messages back on two different flows. Having a way just to say clear, no, I didn't mean to do that, but just clear what I can see and leave anything else there. Now there's certainly good value in that. I think changing the behavior of the button completely isn't ideal because there's absolutely times when, yes, it's filtered because I'm switching between tabs, but when I hit clear, it's like I'm just about to deploy, so I want to wipe the slate. So it does feel like there is a need to have both options. So then the question becomes, all right, how do we want to expose both options? We don't want to, how do we expose both options? Now, we could add a second button, but then you get a slightly tricky situation of, well, how, if it's just a button with an icon, how does the user know, is there an obvious icon we can use to help the user know what that button is going to do, if that makes sense? So that's one open question. I mean, that's the question. If we're going to add a separate action just to clear the filtered messages, how do we do it? So one option would be, if you set the filter to be anything other than all nodes, to show a second clear button, so that there's still the button which will clear everything, and then there's a button next to it which will clear the filtered nodes. Let's just quickly mock up what that would look like. So the debug sidebar, The debug sidebar is slightly unique in how it works. Let me just remind myself how it works. Because you can pop the debug sidebar out into a separate window, it's kind of set up to, yeah, it's set up in a slightly odd way, but I think no, I don't think. What are we doing? So I'm on palette add. Here's where it's setting up. Here's where it's doing everything. Clear message list. View, no. Debug, no. Debug utils. Here we are. Yeah, so here we've got the toolbar. Let me embiggen it for you. Yeah, so here we've got the clear button. I'm just going to copy that button. And we are going to what if it looks like this? Give it a name, clear filtered. Okay, so interesting, the layout has screwed that up, but yeah, a delete button that is clear with the filter, yeah, no, that looks like trash. Okay, so yes, Trognash, the suggestion of button inside the drop-down field. So let me revert that change and just reload to. I do find it curious that it screwed the layout that much, and I'm also just going to drag debug to be the first button so I don't have to switch to it every time. Yeah, so another option would be to have a clear button in here, but again, if you have all nodes selected, then a clear button here would do exactly the same behavior as this clear button. So like the info tab as a title bar on the main sidebar, have the selected filter name with the button right aligned inside the sidebar. How do you mean? So yeah, so a different option would be to have a drop-down button next to this delete to choose the different sort of delete options. So I have this. Not sure I follow you, Noxy, what you mean there. So like the info tab has the title bar in the main sidebar. Oh, right, and with the right line button there. Yeah. It is interesting, actually, trying to get some UI consistency around these buttons and styles, and things have evolved, and perhaps the debug sidebar perhaps hasn't evolved quite in the same way as the others have. So class. Yes, it's interesting. We have this red UI sidebar header button style, which, if if I just flick through, yeah, okay, so that is a red UI sidebar head button. The lint tool. Oh, and okay, so they are using the right styles. Okay, that was distracting me. So they are the right style. What else I'm going to do is just this might get annoying, but I'm just going to set both of these guys up to repeatedly inject. Just so I've always got some content to work with. Yeah, it can be hard to explain. So what are you saying, Noxie? It would look like the info where the filtered debug messages would be contained within that header. So a user would be deleting messages contained within, like in info where the header is used in the sidebar to group things. Yeah. See, this thing, I'm trying not to do too large a departure from what we've got. Not trying to do a huge redesign here by any means. That wouldn't be low risk. But yes, the question is, how do we add a button without cluttering things? I mean, maybe. If I just put that button back that I had. But improve its. Yeah, Jim Bob. So having an option. What I'm trying to find a way of doing is enable this option without imposing lots of extra clicks on the user. That's always the challenge of how best to do this. I'm just. That's what I broke it. I had an extra div in that shouldn't have been there. Okay, so okay, so now we've got 2 delete buttons. That doesn't help the user. What if now why don't I go look at the flow there might be something on the flow debugger. If I enable it, you get this bit of UI that lets you pick the behavior, which again, that doesn't feel quite right. So and this is one of the problems of doing lots of this UI work, trying to do it on the live stream. So much of it is me just staring at something, staring at it and deciding, does that work or what could it be? And trying to do that on a live stream whilst keeping it interesting to you guys watching me push some pixels around is always a challenge. But yeah, what if this run just a trash can? See, the buttons are just starting to get a bit ungainly. I mean, we could change it so that filtered delete only appears if you've got a filtered view active. But then the buttons jump around, and we don't like jumping around buttons. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a step in a direction. And again, as I've said before, often when faced with something like this, the best thing you can do is just start throwing things on the screen just to see, does this look better? Is this moving in a direction? So what I'm going to try now is let's just rework this a bit. So we're going to still have the delete button, but then what I'm going to put next to it is a carry down. Is that right? Yeah, so what I was going here is we could put a little drop-down menu below it like we have there. Add a little drop-down menu that says, which then gives you extra debug options. So clear all messages, clear filtered messages, with an action. Yeah, as long as we bind actions to them all, then they can be keyboard shortcuts. Yes, that would be 2 clicks. But nor do we want to fill this toolbar with lots of buttons. It could be that lets you pick for the majority of users, they just want to clear everything all the time. So we really don't want to make the primary scenario slower. And it would be nice to find a way so a user can set it up so that their preferred behavior is still just 1 click. It might take 2 clicks to change the behavior, but from then on, it's just 1 click to clear the log. So let's just try a couple things. Oh, let's see what. Yeah. See, I think. Well, I'm just going to run with what I'm trying here. I'm going to set what I want to do is, try and make this look like a button with a drop down related to itself, if that makes sense. So there's the carry down. Here's this button, which seems to have a lot of padding. So we're going to set the padding padding 1 and 3. No. Huh? Top, bottom. Why is that shrunk that much? That shouldn't have shrunk that much. Padding left. Padding right. Turn turn off its left border, and this button border right. So it could be a button like this, which then gives me a drop down to pick the type of clear all. Yeah, I'm going to run with this for the moment. I'm not 100% there on this idea, but again, like I said, this is about experimenting, seeing. Yeah. So I have no idea where my speaker just kicked in. So we're going to set padding to 5, to set the border left to none. This is one of those types of things we don't have a standard set of styles for doing this sort of split button. We do it I'm sure we must do it somewhere else in the UI. If anyone wants to spot where else we do it, but yeah, I think we end up hand cranking it a bit too often. All right, let's see what that's looking like. Have I copied over the styles correctly? Okay, so that's looking all right, but I'm going to give this guy just a little bit more padding, and then this one's padding right. Cut that down a bit. Yeah, it's yeah, that's not doing it. If you don't have the label in the button, you wouldn't know which one to select it. Yep, that is a downside of this. But right, I'm going to stop. What is his padding right? It's 8. Okay. So if I take that down to like 6. Yeah, I think proportionally that looks better. Right, and then so now we want to set up a little toolbar.find. Oh no, we're going to do I was just doing this the other day and I can't remember the code for it now. So when we click on that option button, what we're going to do is going to create a little menu. So we're going to have a label of clear all messages. And a label of clear filtered messages. Create the menu with those options, then do a menu.show, and this is where I can't it's where I run out of memory of the API. But last week I added documentation for these APIs, at least internally. Does all that, then shows the menu ops as yeah. We set target to that. Okay, let's have a look. Switch to console in case I've screwed something up. So now when I click that, nothing. Okay, what went wrong? Did anything go wrong? Let's just make sure we are actually getting the event. Do many people contribute to the docs? Sadly not. Yeah, unfortunately not. Okay, so look, we are getting the clicked event, but we're not getting the menu showing for some reason. Just go back and check. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the docs I've spent time on the last week tend to have been developer docs, API docs. So it's me doing my bit to try and get more out of my head. But in terms of the general user guide for Node-RED, no, that's the problem. Sorry, I've just spotted. I think. Yeah, the user guide, I'm sure, could do with a lot of attention. But ho-hum, do what we can. Cool, look, we're getting a menu. Now, okay, it's aligned to the wrong edge, but that's all right. We have an option for that, and it is align, we set align right. Because by default, you can see it's aligning the left-hand edge of the element, whereas by setting align right, where's the best place to hold on, that's not done what I thought. Nope. Where's the best place to start? It's a bit of a chicken and egg problem, really. Okay, so maybe I should have aligned to the left. I mean, the docs are there to be read. So it's really hard for me to sort of say, we need documentation writing on X, Y, or Z, because frankly, if I had that there we are. If I had that foresight, we may already have those docs. So largely it's a case for the documentation. If there's an area that you think should be improved, then let's have a conversation about how we can go about improving it. Right, look how this menu, I've managed to nicely align it to the right-hand edge, but going off to the left. This guy is on the left-hand edge going left. How do I get it on the right-hand edge going to the left? So let me just go and there must be this is fun. My search box widget. You know what, this is going to be a feature. Yeah, more examples of node usage. I mean, one of the key things is, for example, the cookbook. So cookbook.node-red.org. I mean, there's a ton of I always envisage that being sort of a definitive guide on how to do stuff with the core nodes. And it's got a bunch of useful basic stuff in, but again, it could always do with expanding. That's how we do it. I do cheat. That's less than ideal, but I'm going to live with it. So the show function on the menu, not only can I say align to the left, but I can also give it an offset that says, okay, once you've worked out where you want to be, offset it by this much. And let's just have a look. So the magic here seems to be the width of the button -2 on the x-axis and -1 on the y-axis. So I'm just going to run with that. That's probably going to do with borders. No, that's not done it. Offset, that is the width. Let's get rid of that -2. Like I said, it's a lot of pixel pushing sometimes, this job, but yeah, okay, let's go outer width. That's better. In fact, curiously enough, outer width -2 should be perfect. So in the chat, do you also want to change the icon when a filter is selected for deletion? Then yeah, that would be a consideration. Okay, but now we've got a little menu that's appearing. And we can do something with this. Just running through my options here. So the question is now, should these be actions, as in clicking that does the clear? Should clicking this give me buttons to different types of clear? Or should there be like radio button against these two, and all clicking this does is change the action that this button will do? Like the deploy menu, changing the type of deploy doesn't do the deploy. You still have to click the button. Should this be changing the configuration, or should it be actually doing the action? Now, pretty much everywhere else where we've got drop downs like that, bad example, clicking. Yeah, should it change the action or should it do the action? Yeah, so there's a lot of general consensus over it should change the action, and then yes, you know, we can figure if it changes the label of the button, that's no problem. My only hesitation is it conceivable that we might want to have a menu of other actions to do with debug, at which point we want to have a more general drop-down menu for the debug sidebar that isn't just about clearing. There could be other options. Is that a bigger redesign? Yeah, I think maybe going beyond the brief there. Okay, so if you guys think that should be to set the current mode, what we can do here is, if I can remember like I said, the APIs I only documented last week, I think I can set an onSelect function on the menu. If I just console.log that item, you can set I know for sure you can set on select actions against individual menu items, but here we actually want, it makes more sense to have a single function that gets called and gets past the option that's been selected. So there, I did clear filter message. You can see I've printed out the filtered item, and clear all messages, you get all. All right. So in here we can say if item.value equals all, then what do we do? We're going to go find the clear button. And what we're going to actually do is go find that clear button, and we're going to add a text label inside that button. That's what we're going to do. So where are we? We're in line 236. Remember that. So we add in a span inside the clear button. Then down here in our selector, we go get the span that's inside the clear button, and we're going to set its text to all, and this will need proper translations and the like. If it's not, if we haven't selected all, then we're going to set it to filtered. Okay, and for the sake of argument, we need to set the initial state to be all, and let's just okay, so there we have trash all, clear filtered messages. Cool. So it is true if you want, I mean, the downside of this is if you want to do a one, by normally you want to clear filtered because you just want to clear the ones on the current tab, but then you want to do a clear all because you're about to do a deploy. You've then got to do that, and then you've got to set it back to your preferred mode. That's one downside here. It's not quite like the deploy where you typically do the same thing each time. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this UI needs not so nice. I'd be intrigued to know if anyone uses the selected nodes option ever. Yeah. So Noxboy makes an interesting point. Should it auto set to all when you have all node filtered, as you don't have anything filtered? Yeah. Steve says, no, I'm not keen on modify keys. Yeah, that is mostly true, although I will show you something I've added this week. Perhaps in this instance, shift and click could be clear filtered. Yeah, so that's kind of the slightly cheating way of doing it. Just remove any discussion of UI improvements and have, if you press shift, then just have the button do clear filtered rather than clear all. Because I will just show you as you mention it. One of the reasons for doing the hide tabs stuff we've done is for users with lots of tabs. One of the bits of feedback we had is if you want to get all the way down to the end of your tab bar, you can press and hold, but you've still got to wait for it to scroll all the way. Well, now if you shift click on that arrow, it jumps straight. Well, it still scrolls, but it scrolls instantly all the way to the beginning or end, so you don't have to scroll manually and wait. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, okay, that is using the shift key. That's going to be something people just discover rather than or stumble over rather than get the UI tells them it's available. But for now, what are we doing here? Is this looking okay? Let's run with it again. Let's keep running with it for now. So the question here then is what happens when we click that button? Yeah, what happens when we click that button? So we do need to know what action should be performed. What action is it? Clear debug messages. Sorry, bit of finger trouble. Core here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set a data property on that called data action, which is going to be the name of the action that should be invoked. Is that a good idea? No, that's not a good idea. We're going to data clear type of all. Then I'm just going to do a quick bit of jQuery in the down here. There we are. So here we have the click handler for the delete button. Say action. So what we do is we're going to update the data attribute for the clear button to be the type of clear we want it to do whenever it gets clicked. And then when we click it, I'm just going to show, we'll get the clear type data value and we'll log what we think we should be doing. It's still going to do clear all because I've not written the code to do that bit yet. So now when I click it, you can see in the console, hopefully down here, it says all. And when I change it to filtered and click it, it says filtered. Okay, so now we know when we click the button what type of action it should be. And we can say if action equals all, then we'll do clear message list. One thing I want to have a look at is clear message list, this function, intriguingly, takes an argument called false, a false argument. I don't know what that does. Now that's interesting. Clear filter, and it clears the filter settings. Do we ever call that's intriguing that it actually exposes. Oh, no, okay. I think the reason it does that is so when you have two dialogues like this. No. In fact, don't tell anyone, but that's not actually filtering. Yeah, okay, that's something's broken there. Right, I'm just going to reload. No, we're not having a confirmation dialog for clearing debug messages. We've never done. Well, we may have one time had a confirmation dialog, but the number of complaints that would have generated, because users don't. Confirmation dialogues are. Where's that? Oh. The filter is working. I'm just not on a tab that's generating any messages. So there we are. But I think it's true to say the filters are not working for the pop-out window. No, that. Oh, sorry, I'm with you, Nox. That false argument is there. No, I'm not going to chase it down. I think I see why it's there. It's not relevant to what we're doing here tonight. So as much as I like disappearing down rabbit holes, we aren't doing that right now. Yeah, there. So here you can see it getting called with true, and this gets invoked. Hold on, no. Okay. If I invoke the clear debug messages, it resets the filter. So the button isn't invoking the action. The button is sort of doing it locally. But why does the action, which you can bind to a keyboard shortcut, which I've got on Command Alt L, also resets the filter? Now that was a choice made, but for the life of me, I can't see why would a user want to reset the filter if they're clearing debug. That would really annoy. Okay. Okay, one thing at a time, as ever. Just one thing at a time. Let's write the code to just clear the filtered messages. That's the next thing to do. So here we go, clear message list with a false. Well, let's go look at what clear message list does. Clear message list quite literally just removes everything from the UI that has that CSS class. That's how it works. What we want it to do is to be a bit more discerning. So the way the filter works is messages are still, even if they're filtered out, they're still being sent to the editor because all the filtering is done in the editor. And they're still being added to the DOM, they're still being added to the list, but because they're filtered, they are hidden. So the question is there, what's the property of them that determines whether it's shown or not? And this is where I'm just scanning through Is the filtering? Here's the filtering. Yeah. So it uses the hide class. All right. So we're going to, for clear message list, we're going to add a second argument of filtered only, which, if not filtered only, will do what we do before. And what's this config.clear? What's that doing? Oh, excuse me. What on earth is config? Okay. No, okay. Red herring, not relevant to this conversation. Where were we? Yeah, so if we want only to remove the filtered stuff, then what we want to do is to filter stuff that's not hidden. That's the right selector, isn't it? So we want all the debug messages that do not have the hide CSS class to remove, because the filtered ones have the hide. Yep. And then clear message list. Let's just go find where we're calling that. With a false, which it's now the second argument wants to be action equals filtered. So we'll pass in true. That second argument will be true if we only want to remove the filtered ones. So let's have a look at what that does. So here we've got yeah, a bunch of stuff. If I hit clear now, everything goes, which is good. If I do current flow, if I do current flow, then you can see I've got just the array output. So now if I say clear filtered messages, it gets rid of those. And if I quickly switch back to all nodes, see I've still got lots of those previous ones in place. So that's working. And if I click filtered now, that gets rid of everything because my filter is all nodes. Okay, so that is working. Yeah, that's working. Question is now, how much of this should we remember? By which I mean, one of the other suggestions is, if you've got a busy flow, you might want to work with the filter set to current flow by default. And as it stands, it always resets back to all nodes. So there is a requirement around, well, just thinking about a dozen other things. Right. The basic mechanic is here. There are items still to do to tidy this up. Number one, amongst a few, the tooltip for this button says clear log, and it shows the keyboard shortcut for the keyboard shortcut for clear debug messages. Now, if you switch it to clear filtered messages, it's still the same keyboard shortcut. So that's a thing. what we're going to do here is add a new action, clear filtered debug messages, and we'll pass in true as the second argument because that's what we've done. Yeah. So now we have a separate action, which is a good thing to have. So I am, as usual, I'm sort of jumping over a bit. Here's where we set the tooltip on the button, and we set its associated action so it shows the right keyboard shortcut to clear debug messages. What I think we can do is a bit of copy and pasta, but here, as part of changing these guys, I think I can just reset the tooltip and change it to might change the clear log. Why is it log? We don't call it a log anywhere else, so it's slightly odd. But if I hover there and it says, you can see it's got the keyboard shortcut, Command Alt L. If I change this to filtered messages and hover, it still has it. Okay, did that not do what I thought? There's two possible things here. One possible thing is it's I'm wrong to think it can overwrite the Let's just go check in what popover tooltip is doing. Does all that, does all that. Popover create on this target. Sorry, I'm just... You know, I don't think we've got an... we really don't have a neat way to update a tooltip. I've got set content, so I could replace its contents, but then I'd lose out all this code. And this is the code that figures out the keyboard shortcut for the tooltip. But tooltip, yeah, there's some more logic here somewhere. Just go find it. So this is the open pop-up. So this is what happens when it's decided it's got to show the tooltip. And it's decided there's already a tooltip on this element, so it can't show another one. Okay. Okay, I think I'm not going to do it now, but I think I need this tooltip. We need to be able to change the tooltip. That's what we need to be able to do, is change the tooltip. we will do is just do a quick bit of refactoring. So this is the tooltip function. We give it the target, the content, the text, and the action. And then here we say, if you're providing me an action as well, then I'll set label to be a function that gets called dynamically, which is goodness. But what if we always set label to be a function? Why is that baffed? All right, yeah. And then in here, we do the if action. Okay. Then rather than just return the popover, the raw popover, what we're going to do is return popover.set action to be a, and then we can override action with new action and return popover. So then in here, we're going to say var clear tooltip. And down here, we can do clear tooltip set action. There we are. That should all work. So, tooltips can now have their actions changed. Nice. So if I hover, you can see it says clear log and it's got the keyboard shortcut that I have for that action. If I change the action, now when I hover, it doesn't have a keyboard shortcut because I don't have a keyboard shortcut set for clearing the filtered. Now, that was a nice little distraction. The question now becomes, should they be separate actions or should there be one action that does whatever that button is set to? They probably do need to be separate actions because I'm sure there'll be some users who want to be able to bind separate shortcuts for the two different things. Okay, so we've fixed the tooltip. There is, just from a look and feel of this menu, it would be nice if it showed what the fact that this is radio boxes to pick a current mode. Let me have a look. I don't think the existing menu lets me do radio boxes, or it might. Okay, it will in a somewhat convoluted manner. Yeah, we're going to change the NLS messages as well in a bit. And as usual, doing all the NLS work is to be done after the stream type activity. Now, yeah, this might look terrible, so let's just have a quick look. Okay, so I've got the radio buttons. Let's have a quick look. Yeah. Yeah, so the code you're seeing me right now isn't going to go in as is, but it's going to have lots of tidying up. But so at least now it shows more like you're okay, it's not neither selected, but at least it feels a bit more like they are checkboxes, that radio buttons, so you're picking an option rather than invoking an action. The question is how to make it needs to actually show what the current one is. So we want that one to be all, to be value filtered. Then down here where we, let me just check my APIs. Red dot menu. I've got on close. Show. Panel dot show is, where is it? Have I document? I must have red dot panel dot show. Show. No. Okay, so I show it, and then what I'm going to have to do is what we want to do is to find an input with name of clear type and a value equal to how do we know what the current option is? Yes, we stored it, we stashed it away. We stashed it away like the squirrels we are. What am I even saying? Yeah, I think that Behemoth will get the right attribute, and then I think I can do prop check true. If this works, I'll be impressed with how lucky I got there. Yay, look, it's ticked. And then if I tick that one, it's ticked. Ha! It worked. Okay. Well, that's something. I think there's I think there's more to do. I think we have, if I just go back and look at the debugger, this menu, okay, so you can see I do a similar thing there, except in this menu, I'm actually letting you, it's not quite the same thing, it's a, you can take your time choosing your option, and then you mouse out to save that option. Whereas this one is kind of a, yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite feeling it. Doesn't quite feel right yet. But other jobs to do. So we want to rename the muck around in the message catalog, which having done all this faffing with adding in set action, we also need to be able to change the content. So popover does let you change the content, but you lose the you lose that. Sorry, I'm mumbling again. So let's add so just as we let you overwrite the action, now we can overwrite the content. So if you want to change the label as well as the action, because that's what we're going to want to be able to do. At the moment, that tooltip has a label of this. So clear tooltip.set content. Add clear filtered log. Let's go find the message catalog, preferably the English one. Go find clear log, clear filtered log. I'm going to leave it with log for now. Yeah. For why not? That's that done. That's that done. Okay, so let's reload and just check whether the tooltip's updating. So the tooltip starts out as clear log. We change to filtered messages, and now it says clear filtered log. So cool. We're changing the tooltip on the button. Nice. That's that done. The next thing we want to do is be able to store. We want to be able to remember the user's option. Which we can use red.settings.get. Yeah. If I pull up, that's right. I already just think, am I going to show you anything that you shouldn't see? No, I think we're all good. If I go into my Node-RED directory, there is .config.users.json. Oops. Which, if we just cat it, Alice Skywalker. I wonder who that is. Johnny. Oh, there's me. But the one we care about is underscore, the anonymous user. So this is where we store editor preferences for the user. So what I'm going to do is, if I, let's see if I can remember the syntax. Which I can't remember the syntax. Let me, yeah, okay. So we want to look at dot underscore dot debug. We're going to watch that. Oh. If in here I do red.settings.set debug, in fact, we're going to make some property names up. So debug.filter, set that to all. If I now look at that file, you can see it's been updated with filter all under the debug key. And then if I do clear type all, we now have clear type stored. So in here, what we're going to do is whenever the user changes their filter type, the clear type. Oh, I don't like that name though. Okay, I'm going to live with it for the moment, but like I said, as ever with this stuff, it's all subject to complete change by the time it reaches you guys. Do we use Lodash to update JSON files? No, we don't. We just update files. We do merge in changes, if that's what you mean. Okay, so now whenever I change it in the UI, it will change this clear type in the file. So if I load, so you can see clear type is set to all at the moment. Change it to clear filtered messages, and within a couple of seconds, it's changed to filter. So that's nice. Then what we want to do is down here, we want to find out what the user has got set already. So for that, we can change that to get debug.clearType, but we still pass in all as a second argument because that's going to be the default if it's not set. Pretty certain. Let me just double check. red.settings.get does not exist. 42 returns 42. Yeah. Okay, so then we can say if clear type equals all. Oh, me type not well. Now there's a lot of copy and paste is about to happen. Again, as part of the tidy up, I'll make this a utility function that gets called in both places. But for now, this is what we're doing. And with one small modification, that at this point in time, this element hasn't been added to the DOM, so we can't use $ to find it. Okay, so that's all good. Let's have a look. So in the file, I've got it set to filter at the moment. So now if I reload, it's still unfiltered. So let's check that's actually working. So if I do current flow and hit clear and then go to all nodes. Ooh. Okay, so I've got some of everything. I go current flow, clear, all node. Oh no, that's not worked. Because I'm not setting the data type, which was here. So you set toolbar find and cool. Well, I'll fix that. Yep, so it's remembering the clear type. If I set current flow, clear, go back to all nodes. Has it done it? Right, I need to console log the action we're doing here. In fact, now I've got it in red.settings, I can get rid of the data, the action from, yeah, why don't I do that? There's no point storing it in multiple places and have to worry about keeping in sync. Debug.clearType with the default of all. And that's I'm just going to get rid of there. Get rid of it there and replace this with the red dot settings.get debug.clear type. Default to all. Good. So I shouldn't have any more data calls, at least, yeah. Not related to the clear type. Right, it's 9:30. I kind of want to wrap this up, but so we've got filtered working. If I click it, clear type filter. So it should be the case. If I change this to current flow, click clear, and then click all nodes. No, it didn't feel... That doesn't feel like it's working. If I go to current flow, if I switch to flow 9, look, I've got plenty of strings rather than arrays. So if I go back to flow 10 and I click clear filtered, go back to flow 9, yeah, something's not working. Oh, clear type filter. I've got the text wrong. That's what's going wrong here. So clear type, it says filter, not filtered. So that's gone awry. How's that? Yeah. I should say filtered there where I'm setting it. Right, let's just test this. I need to change this just to... Yeah. So change the filter to current flow. If I switch to 9, I get lots of strings. 10 has lots of arrays. If I click filtered, there you go. If I go back to 9, I've still got lots of strings. So that has worked. Cool. All right. So we now remember the clear type. The next thing to do is to remember the filter. So that's going to be the next thing, and the pattern's going to be very the same. So, but that's now going to be delving into older code, how the filter is set up, and to be honest, that'll be another 10-15 minutes of poking around in the old code just to, well, let's go have a quick look. It's one of these. Debug filter, click. Yeah, but where are the button handlers? Here they are. Filter button handler. Yada yada yada. And we're going to set, what did I call it? Filter. We're going to set it to filter type. No, not without quotes though. Okay, so let's just reload. Check our settings. So here you can see it says filter rule because I haven't changed it yet. So let's change it to selected nodes. And you can see it's been saved to filter selected. If I go to current flow, it will change to filter current, and then all nodes, filter all. Okay, so that's goodness. We're now, so we are at least saving the user's choice, and the final bit will be to initialize the selection. But to do that, I don't think there's going to be a quick and easy. Yeah, I kind of want to do a little bit of refactoring around this because yeah, there's a lot of, I think some of this UI-ness can be improved, maybe. I don't know, but I'm going to leave it there. Zoramil, you've missed about 98 minutes of hacking around in the debug sidebar, adding in an option to only clear the filtered messages rather than absolutely everything. And what I've been doing the last few minutes is remembering the user selection of that in runtime settings. So when you reload the editor, it remembers your choices. And the next step is to get it to remember your filtered selection as well, between page reloads, which was super. Well, we've got it remembering the type of selection. We also need to get it when in this mode where you pick individual nodes. We'll need to get it to remember which ones you've actually got selected. And it's one thing to save it, it's another to, when you refresh the page, to actually restore that selection. So that's a bit more than I'm going to get into now. I've been going for 1 hour 38 minutes. So this gets stored in the runtime settings. So this is in your .node-red directory, the .config.users file. So this is where any of the editor preferences you modify will get stored, like the view, the grid size, snap to grid. If you reorder the sidebar tabs, what order they're in, any of your custom keyboard shortcuts are stored in here. Yeah, so it all goes in here. Yeah, although one thing do I want to go there? Yeah, no, this is all good. So there is a new, although, where is it? Not logged in. Sorry, I've just, okay, it's in there. Yeah, so I'll finish that off tomorrow. This will be in 2.1 beta refresh on Thursday. Keep an eye out for it. Otherwise, there'll be, yeah, we've had 2 or 3 issues mentioned about the beta, just paper cut type stuff, which have all been fixed. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to call it. So thank you very much for joining as ever, guys. Always great to chat. Whilst I didn't get to Steve's other feature request, which was around adding the copy buttons to a slice of the array rather than the full array, it is on the backlog. Whether I spend some time on that for 2.1, I don't know. It's yeah, it would be a nice to have, but it doesn't feel a huge sort of paper cut solving a real big problem, but who knows? It might be a 10-minute bit of work, in which case let's get it done. But yeah, if there's any other areas you'd like to suggest, I know Steve mentioned very early on. What was your suggestion, Steve, early on? Having more information about the types of the data. Yeah, I think I need to. Properties have. Sorry. Yeah. I want to dig into that Steve's suggestion a bit more on that, just to understand it better. Anyway, I digress. I'm going. Good night, all. Thank you for joining. Do like and subscribe. Do follow me back. I will be, as far as I know, I'll be back next Monday. Yeah, back next Monday, 8 PM UK time for an hour and a half or so, and nothing else. That's all I've got. Good night. Go away. Stop talking, Nick. Find the button to turn this off. Good night.